Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. I will say that the SNP are getting pretty desperate. As in, they're not only scraping the barrel, they're picking the barrel up and looking underneath to see if there's anything that's fallen out. The latest wheeze is by Peter Grant, a man who will no longer be an MP come the next election. He's decided to go and spend more time with all the money he's earned as an MP. And on the subject of money, the reason I mention that is he's saying, and making the ridiculous claim, that the people of Rutherglen and Hamilton West are literally too poor to vote. Now, we're going to take a look at this article and see that it's quite clearly wrong. And if anyone's poor, it is, of course, Peter Grant, who is far too poor intellectually to understand what he's saying. After all, it was the people of Rutherglen and Hamilton West that voted Margaret Ferrier out with the petition. They had to have ID there. He's saying they don't have enough IDs. They had enough to get her out. And he's saying that people can't afford passports, can't afford driving licences. Well, we're just about to take that argument apart, as we do with everything else that the SNP say, because facts are easy. Facts are so easy that they really, really annoy the SNP. Let's have a look. I mean, you honestly couldn't make some of the stuff up that they're claiming, and it's just stupid. And it's so obviously not true. It is absolutely not. Anyway, we'll look at it as we go. So, scaremongering SNP MP claims that people in Rutherglen are too poor to vote in a by-election. It is laughable, isn't it? Peter Grant says the voters of Rutherglen and Hamilton West must not be prevented from casting their ballots because they are too poor to own a passport or a driving licence under new voter ID rules. Well, that's not entirely true, is it? Is it, Peter? Are you lying again to try and make yourself look relevant? Why? You're not going to be relevant in 16 months' time when you're voted out. Well, you're not even voted out. You won't even be voted, will you? You're running away because you know you're already out. A nationalist MP and moron was warned about scaremongering after suggesting that people in Rutherglen and Hamilton West would be disenfranchised due to new voter ID rules. And we'll go through these and you'll see that's not the case. Peter Grant claimed that voters in the South Lanarkshire constituency may be prevented from voting because they're too poor to own a passport or a driving licence. And the October the 5th by-election will be the first time that ID is required to vote in Scotland. That's not exactly true. It's the first time... Well, no, it's the first time that they're required to vote. It's not the first time they've been required to sign the petition for Margaret Ferrier. That was also required. ID was required for that. And yet, strangely, they managed to do it. It's amazing, isn't it? The new rules state that accepted forms of ID, photo ID, also include, apart from driving licences and passport, the Scottish National Entitlement Card, which is the SNP government's own national smart card that they have in the rest of the country, to integrate the bus pass, library card, and things like that. Or the Young Scot card, as well as a range of council services. People can also use the Blue Badge for disabled drivers, a Ministry of Defence ID card, or a voter authority certificate, available to anyone on the electoral roll at 5 working days' notice. Finally, people can register to vote anonymously if they have court documents to show they or somebody in their household is at risk. In other words, there are so many different ways of getting photo ID requirement for voting. He is scaremongering. He's trying to vote to get people to say, oh, no, you can't vote, ooh, and frighten people into thinking that what he's saying is true, when actually what he's saying is bullshit. Oh, more of the same BS from all the same party. To further undermine the SNP's argument, voter ID was required to take part in the recall petition, as I mentioned earlier, that allowed the people of Rutherglen and Hamilton West to get rid of his shamed former colleague, Margaret Ferrier. The rules did not prevent some 11,896 people from signing the petition. So again, showing it up to be what it is. Utter lies from a failure of a politician. In response to Mr Grant, the Cabinet Office Minister Alistair Burgart said, I hope the Honourable Gentleman, I would suggest he's not so honourable, I hope the honourable gentleman is not suggesting that people can only vote if they have a passport or a driver's licence. If he does not know that this is untrue, he now does. We have a widespread publicity campaign to ensure that people understand the identity requirements at elections. At the local elections, despite considerable scaremongering from opposition parties, the disruption was minimal. And it's been minimal at every single election taking place in England since that rule was taken in. And very, very few. There's been a couple. And it turns out the couple that did it are deliberately making a point. They had driving licences on them when they were challenged. They were just trying to make the point. The Glenrothes MP, who was standing down at the next general election, much to the relief of the people of Glenrothes, asked, "The forthcoming by-election in Rutherglen and Hamilton West will be the first in Scotland under the new requirement for voter identification. We know that thousands of voters in England were disenfranchised at council elections because they did not have a passport or a driving licence. That is not true. The ones that were disenfranchised were ones who were not entitled to vote. Of people entitled to vote who failed to turn up with ID, like I say, most of them managed to go and get ID. And in fact, as I say, one of them actually had ID on them but was making a political point. He asked, what specific steps is the Cabinet Office taking to make sure that voters of Rutherglen and Hamilton West who want to turn out in their thousands to elect Katie Loudon as their MP, he's hopeful, isn't he? He's hopeful. Because I think even more will vote to not have her as MP. Are not prevented to do so because they are too poor to own a passport or driving licence. Well, again, it is just plain scaremongering from a man who ought to know better. And he may not be aware that people in his constituent Fife are more likely to be, as Mr Grant has termed it, poor than those in South Lanarkshire. In other words, there's more poor people in Fife where he comes from than in South Lanarkshire. So he needs perhaps to put his own house in order. The rules were brought in under the Elections Act 2022 and apply to general elections as well to council elections south of the border. People do not need ID for council or Holyrood elections in Scotland as yet. But elections to Westminster, they do. And that's fine. But there we are. A man who is deliberately stirring up confusion, deliberately stirring up this pot of nastiness, because he's just a typical SNP lying two-faced twat, isn't he? He knows better than that. Look, he has to wear a yellow tie in case he forgets which party he represents. What a complete knob. Anyway, I shall stop there and come up and leave the knob to go about his business. The only good upshot, of course, is he'll no longer be there in Parliament soon. Parliament will, the IQ of Parliament will going up noticeably with all of that lot leaving. And the smell will be better. Mary Black's going. Anyway, I shall finish there. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been most illuminating and has been worthy of a push of the old subscribe button. We would like to get the numbers raised so we can spread the good word, spread the truth. As I say quite regularly, being a political channel, the YouTube algorithm tends to sort of hide us somewhat. They don't really like political channels. So, you know, by subscribing, you raise the context and the message gets out. Anyway, thank you very much. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and if you can avoid it, don't vote for the SNP. Bye.